This is a short video tutorial on CHED, the chart editor for Tunithm-like games. We're going to do a quick walkthrough over the main screen here, and then start diving into other features that we can use, how to chart a song, etc. So, right from the start here, we can see the top menu, which I will go into a little bit later. The toolbar here, which is generally self-explanatory if you've used other editors before with just Word or Excel or something like that. Primarily I'm going to focus on the things here, which is pen, selection, and eraser. Those are obviously important for your creating notes with pen. You are selecting notes to edit using selection, and eraser quite obviously means erase. On the next line here, you will see the different note types you can select, as well as a drop-down box which we'll go into. The notes here are pretty straightforward. Tap, single tap of the on the touchpad. EX tap, which is a better tap, higher score tap, I believe. Hold, again straightforward. Slide, which lets you move around the touchboard while holding down, or while touching the touchboard. You'll actually see two different types of slide. And I'll go into that a little bit later too. One uses invisible inflection points or step points, and the other one uses visible step points here. You'll see the air notes, which are used to lift and lower into the sensing region. Air action, which we'll explain as well. It's the basically moving notes inside when you're still holding in the air. And flick, so that's not a tap, you can swipe across the touchpad. And damage, which will damage you if you have your hand over the touchpad while it's coming down. The last thing here is what I've been calling division or quantization selection. If you know music very well, or if you have any passing knowledge in music, you'll understand that basically each measure, at least in 4/4, can be divided into four. Well, it can be divided in steps. Most commonly, 4/4 would be quarter note, half note, whole note, 16th note, etc. And from this drop-down, you can select those divisions to which notes will snap to. So if you want to make a row of quarter notes, one every quarter of the measure, then you can very easily select quarter or 4 division and place them without having to worry about them being off time. Unless you're doing any very complicated rhythmically intensive sections, you'll typically be able to use any of these divisions. But if none of those work, there is a custom field where you can use separate quantizations. But for the most part, you should be able to get by with these. I'm going to stick with 4 for the moment here. So let's go ahead and just sort of walk through notes. There's going to be 3 types of notes, really. What I'm going to call, and what the game calls, short notes, which are the tap, EX tap, flick, and damage notes. So these have no duration. It is simply a moment in time. Obviously, if you tap a note, if you have a tap note coming, you'll have to tap it in time. So it's very simply select the note type that you want and click, and you get a note. That's pretty straightforward. With the editor, you can use your mouse to pretty much manage the entire thing. If you hold it in the center, you'll get those nice cross arrows, and you'll be able to move your note all around. And again, since we have 4 divisions selected, this will lock to quarter notes on the measure, so you're getting every quarter note division in time, and left and right you can select any lane that you decide to put your note onto. If you select either side of the note, you can increase the width or decrease the width. Pretty straightforward, and again that applies pretty much to every type of short note where you can change the side, you can move it around. If you do change to 8th division, then you can now, you'll notice it will now snap to the 8th, which makes things rather convenient. Pretty easy, isn't it? So let's go ahead and we can do a select. And you can select all those notes. You can go ahead and just press delete on your keyboard and those will go away. Ched has a very robust undo and redo system, so if you press Ctrl Z and undo, you'll get those back. Ctrl Y to redo and you'll go away again. It's a little helpful, it's definitely very helpful, especially when working with more dense patterns and it's kind of hard to click notes when they're all on top of each other, just to be mindful of the ability to undo and redo very quickly, just in case you click the wrong thing by accident. Speaking of, oh, now let's go move on. So next we can go to long notes, of which there are 3, 2 with a exception. So hold note is very obvious. You'll be expected when you're playing the game to hold that note. Likewise, you can move it. You can extend the tail. You can change the width by grabbing the start note here. The top note, you can't change the width or move it or anything. Hold notes are always in a straight line, just so you don't. Because if you move a line, it'll be a slide note. I added an extra thing here just by accident, so we can just undo that. That's what I mean about it's kind of easy to click by accident right on top of something if you're trying to grab a hold note. That's just how it goes. It's not too bad or anything. If you get rid of a hold note, you can go ahead and go to the eraser tool and just click on the head of the tool, or the head of the note, and it'll go away. You can't click the tail, it's only designed to work on the head. But if you click and then just hold down the button, you can you can make the tail as long as you want to as well, or you can just edit it after you put the note down. There's not too much of a concern with that. Second note is the slide, which again requires you to hold on to the note and then move it around to whatever position you end up in. The first slide is the standard slide with no visible step points, and you'll see what I mean about that. But each note essentially acts as its own. You can move up. You can move around the entire thing by using the first, the start note, and you can change the width of that, move it around. Pretty straightforward. On the tail end, you can actually change the width independently, so you have a very start with a skinny note and kind of fan out from there. Something like that. And if you select anywhere in the center of the note, you'll create a step point here. And again, the step point has its own step features or note features where you can have a certain shape or change the width, change the location, any sort of that. You'll find that you can just keep making steps as long as you want. And again, these are also locked to the division here. So if you want to make them on 16th notes perhaps, then you can just change that and they'll now snap to that current division. So when playing the game, you will not see any sort of inflection point here or a step point here, and it'll appear as one continuous motion. Which is a contrast to the visible step, where you'll see this bar shows up in the game. I'm actually not sure if there's a difference in terms of how it functions, but I believe they're all the same. So pretty straightforward, the slide thing. And there is currently there's no way to add a curve. SUS format does support Bezier curves for notes for slide notes, although Ched does not support them, and it will likely not be supported in the future based on comments I've heard from the author. Just because it is not really necessary. If you want to make a curve, you can just kind of fake it with a lot of little steps here, which is really not too hard to do to create. So it sounds like there will not be sort of sorry, I'm just kind of playing here. So anyway, and of course you can do any sort of crazy shape you want with slides. They can look like something stupid or something, a pattern. Each of them likes to spell out things in their slides, so you can certainly do that using Ched. And so let's go ahead and delete these real quick. And we're going to go back to short notes real quick to just demonstrate errors. So in Tunithm, there are the error sensors, and those will be applied to notes. So errors cannot be applied just randomly. They have to be associated with the parent note. There are many options: up, up left, up right, down, down left, and down right. So if you select an error, you'll see it selected, and you can click on a note, and it'll add it to that note. So that is now part of the note. And if you move it around, you'll see it goes with it. If you want to change it, you can change it by just clicking. Actually, I guess you can't change it. I thought you could. But you can delete error notes by going to the eraser and just clicking the error note itself, and then we'll go ahead and add a new one there. So, have to delete it before you change it. Makes sense. Likewise, you can add errors to the end of notes. You can't add to the beginning, but you can add to the end. And down doesn't really make sense in the context of the game. You'd probably rather do it up, because you'll be holding the note and then lifting up. But that's a side note. Likewise, you can add them to slides. Again, it has to be the end of the note, just by the nature of the game. And what else? Just keep going up here. So the next kind of note is an air action, which if you have a tap here, let's make that kind of wide. Add a tap, and you can add an air action, and you'll get this. In which case, it'll automatically create a lift, and you'll have this green line, which means you hold your hand in the air, and the purple at the end is the air action, which means you either move up or down, depending on your preference. I thought you could. I guess you can. Okay, never mind. In air action, you can also add midpoint, so you have to move around in the air while you are playing, or while you're still holding up in the air. But that's also pretty easy to do by just clicking, and again, they are locked to your divisions. So those are all the types of notes. They're all very straightforward. If you want to move notes around, you can just select the entire thing and just kind of move it up and down. If you select less of a region, you can move things right to left. You'll see that the selection is bound by the size of it. So if you get a narrow selection, you can move them further. Which leads me into my next region, next thing here. So let's grab this, and we will do edit copy, or I could just press Control C, of course. So if you do Control V or just press paste, you'll see it pops right up, and then you can edit it as its own separate entity. You can of course move it around. You'll see when I need to edit a note, I'll have to select that particular note from the toolbar. You can't edit, let's say, well, you can edit whatever you want, I guess. What else? So you saw that I did a copy there. I did a Control V. You can also paste flipped, which means that it will flip the entire thing about the center line. So you see here we start on the left side and go in and up. I pasted the flipped and it started on the right side and went over and went up. Pretty useful feature for doing mirrored charts and mirrored sections in your charts. Likewise, you can do something like this, where you would do a note, tap, 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 and then you select the entire thing. You can do a flip, and again, it'll flip it about the center section, just in case you drew it backwards, or something like that. Other things, of course, you can remove your notes by just doing that or pressing delete. The other feature here, which I will go into right now, is events. So, for this song in particular that I'm going to be loading soon, the BPM is 130, not 120. You can see down here it's listed as 120. So I'm going to go ahead and change the speed to 130. And you'll see the number has changed. You can add these events by, or anywhere in the song, so it doesn't have to be this measure. It can be measure 5, for example. We want to change the BPM again, make it to be 185, and you'll see that it has created a new event here. You'll be noticing green, because green is the BPM color. If you change the time signature, which you can do, that is something else. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll see it now it's orange, because that's the time signature number, and you'll actually see that it has changed to 3, 4 on the scaling to make your life easier. Don't mind that. So, of course, if we don't want these things anymore, we can go to Edit and remove selected events, and that will delete the event associated with this bar, the selected bar that you have to do it by hitting selection and hitting just the note pane. Likewise, we can go here and delete this. If you insert something, let's say we do 49, and then go over here and do remove action. There's no action with that line, so it doesn't do anything. The last event that you can insert is high-speed section, which will change the speed of the scroll. And you'll see again that it's a separate color in the event region. This time it's red. You can go ahead and delete that once again. So that's majority of the features. There's also all the features that are intrinsic to playing note or to charting your song, creating notes, note charts. There's other things such as zoom in. That's zooms in the time direction. So that's the vertical direction. You can also make your note chart wider using the view. The last thing is score preview will make these nice little images that you can then capture and display. You can't edit in this format, hence the stop sign there, then do not enter sign. It's just for visualization. What else? So we can go ahead and pick a song by going to Score Properties. You'll see I've filled in this information already. We've selected Magic Talk by AG. I've filled in my information already. This will be translated to the sus file once we export. And the offset is the offset that the chart is from the song. So the song will always begin. Or sorry, I believe that's backwards actually. I don't remember, to be honest. Sorry. It's either the offset that the song is at relative to the chart, which I believe it is that one. I've actually already done this song before, so I know that the offset is 0.2, which with an offset of 0.2, we're going to have the song actually start on measure 2, which it doesn't matter where it starts. It's up to you, really. But Anyway, so let's go ahead and we can play the song using the play feature. And actually, I messed up there because playing will start from your selected bar. Since I selected bar 6 or measure 6, it starts from there. Let's go back down and start from measure 1. And of course, it hears the music playing. And every time you hit a note, it'll kind of tick along with it, just so you have a guidance of what your chart sounds like. It's helpful for trying to match things with the song, certainly. So utilize it. You can't really turn it off, so you have to utilize it, but you know what I mean. What else? I'm actually going to delete some of this stuff real quick, like here. So anyway, we can kind of start charting here, just a example. Probably going to do some holds. And I actually already did some here, so I know that this ends on a 30-second note, which is interesting. But we go over here, and this also goes up to like there-ish. And let's go add a slide here. Maybe make it half the field and slide down to, I don't know, there. Perhaps right there. We'll do a mirror of that. So grab this, paste, flipped. There's a hotkey for that apparently, but oh. This actually goes up here. I as you can tell, I've already done a little bit of my homework on this, so I kind of know where the notes are supposed to go in this particular song, but obviously if you've tried it before, you kind of know that you have to pick it up as you go. But anyway. Let's see how that goes. We'll go back down and grab the select. And I hope this works. We'll see. That's about it. But as you can tell, that's kind of in line. This actually should be higher. But that's alright. Anyway, so that's very much the basics of all these things. The only thing I didn't go over, which I will go over right now, is export. And export will grab in the information you typed in for the song. Had to think there for a second. You can select your difficulty. You can select your level, which is any of these. Song ID is something that should be unique to that song. You can just do the title or something like that. Song file name is going to be whatever your actual file name is, so like MP3 or OGG or WAV or whatever it is. Playback offset is going to be almost usually the same offset you typed in the editor here, but not always. Jacket file name will be something like album.png. And I'm not going to open this, but you have to type in a location for your file to save for your file. And then you can export, and it'll export in a sus file, SUS file, which you can then use on programs such as CUrchin. Anyway, that's about it. That's the whole walkthrough I have for you guys. There's more features that I've gone into detail on the wiki translation, so be sure to check that out. Or if you need any refreshers on any of this stuff, that is also covered. The basics are covered in the how-to on the wiki. So thanks for watching. Happy charting. Hope you guys have fun. Thanks.